about it, though, guys, I got to tell you, Ron Rivera in Washington, I know it's kind of boring because he's likely to wind up there according to some. The odds are pretty good. But really, what the league is about more than anything is the relationship between the head coach and the quarterback. That establishes everything you're trying to do. And so if you have a guy there who's brought in Washington to change the culture, to show them the way a football team is run, if you have a quarterback like Dwayne Haskins who still has some learning to do, and I know he's a very different kind of quarterback than Cam Newton, but Ron Rivera and Cam Newton almost got all the way there. Like when you look at what success means in the NFL, they got to a Super Bowl. They had a chance to win late in the game. That's pretty damn good. And to be able to bring a guy like that in on a short-term deal, or if he gets healthy, maybe a little bit longer, when you're not sure about the guy you drafted, makes a lot of sense to me. I think Washington's a good fit.
I'm not of that mindset. I think that the league has figured out what Ron Rivera and Cam Newton would bring to the table. I think that there comes a point in time where separation is just the way to go. You've been with each other long enough, and obviously it's time to part ways. I certainly didn't necessarily feel that way about Brady with Belichick, but that was inevitable. In the case of Cam Newton and Ron Rivera, albeit primarily due to injury, Cam Newton hasn't had the greatest years over the last few years. A couple of years ago, before he got hurt, he was completing about 67% of his passes, which was obviously the best that he had done. Prior to that, the vast majority of his career, he had never completed over 60% of his passes. However, I think that when you look at the Los Angeles Chargers, that's where I come into play with supporting Cam Newton going someplace else as a starter. And I'm going to tell you why. Because even though you don't want him running the football too much, Phillip Rivers was so immobile. He was such a stationary target that I think it would be a breath of fresh air for fans of the Chargers to see a quarterback that could actually move. And that's not to knock Phillip Rivers. He is what he is. He can throw the football, but he just never was a mobile quarterback. That's not the case with Cam Newton. You got Keenan Allen. You got Mike Williams. You probably got Hunter Henry as well. You got to find a way to replace Melvin Gordon. But in the end, you've got a requisite number of weapons in the offense in Los Angeles with the Chargers, coached by Anthony Lynn, that if you have a guy that's vibing with Cam Newton while at the same time allowing Cam Newton to run with the football, not exactly calling running plays for him the way that they did in Carolina, but just allowing him the freedom to say, hey, listen, we don't mind you moving, using your legs to move the chains from time to time as you see fit. I think that would be something that's incredibly beneficial to Cam Newton because that falls along the lines of how he wants to play. And I also think it would be a godsend for the Los Angeles Chargers because for years they've been quarterbacked by a guy in Phillip Rivers who could not move. And I think that it would be a breath of fresh air if they had somebody like Cam Newton there to do that. It would also be a reason to go watch the Chargers, who've had a hard time establishing a really loyal fan base. They were for so many years in San Diego, which is an itinerant going to help that for them.
A transient kind of place. But I don't know, Cam Newton with all those weapons. But Stephen A., and I know Anthony Lynn's different. He's an established head coach. Where he is level-wise could be argued, but he's not like an unknown quantity. But the Browns last year, and this is a point you made, and I understand the coaching was really an unknown, and it turned out to be, when we knew it, not very good. And that was the problem. But it really does emphasize the importance of the coach and the structure of the organization. So when we look at teams with the shiny objects, especially if they've acquired them at free agency or they've managed to amass these skills positions that look really sexy, even if the line play isn't great, we always imagine, boy, you kind of parachute a quarterback in there and you have this dynamic offense. But what we've actually learned is more important than the name brands, and I'm not, of course, you need a playmaker on the outside, you need a tight end. I know the Patriots didn't have that last year, but more important than those things is a coach who really knows what he's doing to put players in positions to win. And by the way, the Patriots won 12 games last year. The Browns only won, 7 in the end, even with all those great skills position players. So yes, it would be a lot of fun with the Chargers. I'd sign up for that, no doubt. But when I'm thinking about the right fit for Cam, I'm looking at the coach-quarterback relationship. He had a good thing going with Ron Rivera. Like, let's not forget when he got hurt, Stephen A. He may have been having his best year to date, at least as a passer, and they were good. They were rolling. Then he got hurt, and it all came undone. If he's mostly healthy and he can get back on a Ron Rivera team, they might start rolling again.
I would remind you that when you were praising Cam Newton and his 67% completion percentage, not one time did you mention Ron Rivera that entire year. You kept mentioning Norv Turner. So let's keep that in mind. Let's not go overboard with the Ron Rivera Cam Newton connection. When Norv Turner arrived was when we saw the efficiency of Cam Newton elevate. Not to knock Ron Rivera in any way, because I genuinely like him as a coach, and I think he's a damn good coach. But the point is, Norv Turner, it was about Norv Turner, not Ron Rivera. So if you go to San Diego, and again, you have to take into account who you're succeeding. Now, in the case of the Redskins, there's nowhere to go but up, considering the issues that they've had at the quarterback position. But from what I'm told, you have an owner in Daniel Snyder who's hell-bent on making sure that their quarterback, Haskins, is the guy that's the quarterback of the future, at least for the moment in time. So that might not be the ideal situation to walk into. Whereas if you're in Los Angeles with the Chargers, and I don't think anything's going to help them get fans other than moving back to San Diego, because if you can't get folks to show up before last year, not this past season, but the season before that, they were 12-4, went to the AFC divisional playoff games before they lost to the New England Patriots. Nobody supported them then. I don't think they're going to support them that much now, even if Cam Newton is available. I think they should move the hell back to San Diego. That's my personal opinion. But in the end, with Anthony Lynn coaching and proving that he could coach on the NFL level, give the reins to Cam Newton. He's a mobile quarterback, at least in a decent fashion, and I think that helps elevate their chances exponentially.
And by the way, we also have to see what happens in the draft. You can't take your eye off Miami. As I said, if he went to LA, I wouldn't not be excited. That would be a lot of fun, at least in theory, at least on paper. And you're right, I did bring up Norv Turner in terms of his pass. But even before Norv Turner got there, Cam had a lot of success with Ron Rivera. That's the bottom line. Where are you set up for success? As far as Dwayne Haskins is concerned, just winning games. It doesn't mean. It's not mutually exclusive. Cam Newton now, there's no Dwayne Haskins. Let Cam Newton have a great season and Dwayne Haskins hold the clipboard and then have that problem. That's a good problem to have.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Cam's 31 years old. Cam ain't going nowhere anytime soon.
Yeah, the Chargers brought in Tyrod Taylor, and one other team I'd throw out there besides the Patriots. It doesn't look like that'll happen. They also brought in Brian Hoyer recently. We know they have Stidham and Kessler. There's also the Jags guys. We don't know if Gardner Minshew is the future down there. There could potentially be a landing spot as well. We'll have much more on that and continue to keep you posted on the Cam sweepstakes here. But when we come back on First Take, we've got the fastest man in the NFL joining us, Super Bowl champion Tyreek Hill, after this break.